everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Kendra and today I'm going to be doing my December wrap up. First I'm going to go through all of the stats for the month. So I ended up reading 9 books. I DNF'd 1 book and I read a total of 2,327 pages. I read 4 physical books, 3 audiobooks, and 2 ebooks. And then 3 of these were library books, 3 of them were Audible Escape books, 2 of them were Kindle Unlimited books, and 1 of them was one of my own books. I read all female authors and they were all adult books. Then I read 5 holiday books, 3 romance books, and 1 thriller. And for my star ratings, I had 0 1 stars, 1 2 star, 4 3 stars, 3 4 stars, and 1 5 star. And now I'm going to go through all the books from my least favorite to my favorite of the month. First, I'm going to talk about the book that I DNF'd for the month. And I ended up DNFing Last Christmas in Paris by Hazel Gaynor and Heather Webb. And this is about Evie and her brother and her brother's best friend get sent off to war, and they are in Paris, and it's told in letter format. So I didn't really get emotionally involved with the characters in this book. I just felt like it being in letter format felt a little flat for me, and I just wasn't connecting to the characters and I just wasn't enjoying it, so I ended up putting it down and I never picked it back up. Actually, this is a book that I was supposed to buddy read with Shelby as Shelby Taggart Reads and Beth from Beth and Books. I know that Shelby ended up finishing it. She didn't really care for it, and Beth also ended up DNFing it, so we did not pick a good book for December to read together. But I don't know, I guess maybe letter format is not the way for me, but yeah, I just was not connecting well with the characters and it just wasn't for me. The next book is Special Delivery by Lauren Blakely, and I ended up giving this book 2 stars. This is part of a series. It was just one of the Christmas books in the series, and it says that you can read it as a standalone. And this is about Vaughn. He is Quinn's brother's business partner, and Quinn is asked to throw a holiday party for their company, and of course Vaughn and Quinn are teamed up together to throw this party, and of course they can't keep their hands or eyes off of each other. So that's basically the synopsis of this book. I would say the first 3/4 of this book I really enjoyed. Like, I love the chemistry between the 2 characters, and I loved the Christmas feels of the book. I just really liked the atmosphere of the book. But then that last 4th of the book, it was like, bam, they were instantly in love. They instantly got married and all of that stuff. I hate insta love so much that it literally just killed the book for me. And I think that's what one of my problems is with novellas. It's like they have great pacing at the beginning and middle, and then towards the end it's like they speed past everything and they're in love, they're married, they're engaged, and all of that. But I don't know, I guess I just don't mesh well with novellas, and I don't know, maybe I'll give a couple more novellas a shot, but as of right now, they are not on the top of my priority list to read. So unfortunately, I did not like this book. The next book I have is 12 Days of Christmas by Debbie McComber. And this is about Julia. She is interviewing for a new job, and part of this job she has to write a blog. And for her blog, she ends up deciding that she is going to write about killing her neighbor with kindness because he is like a Scrooge. He's mean, he's always stealing her newspapers, so she thought that would be the perfect thing to write about. So as time goes on, her blog becomes really popular. She is getting lots of new followers, and her and Kane become closer. So it's the relationship between those two. And all in all, I really like this book. I thought it was a fun, cute Christmas holiday romance, and I felt like the relationship between Julia and Kane were a little too rushed and a little unbelievable. But Kane does have a grandfather in this book, and he is to die for. He is so sweet, and overall I felt like this was a sweet, cozy Christmas read, and it was fine. The next book I have is Her Pretty Face by Robin Harding, and I gave this book also 3 stars. And this is about Frances and Kate. They both have sons that go to the same private school, and Frances' son has some behavioral issues. So when Kate's son takes on to him and they become really close friends. So since their sons are close friends, Frances and Kate become close friends as well. And Kate also has a daughter named Daisy, and she doesn't really care much for her daughter. She kind of ignores her and basically lets her do whatever she wants. And Frances is starting to see that and is starting to wonder what the heck is going on. Why is Kate doing that to her own daughter? So her friend doesn't seem as perfect as she seems to be. And then there's also, so this is told in past and present, and that is the present. So then in the past, we're following DJ, and he is the brother of a girl that was murdered, and it goes through the trial of that case. So that's basically what the book is about. So I really loved the dual timelines in this book. I loved the past timeline where it was DJ's story. I really loved that about it. And I also really liked following Daisy's perspective in the present time. And I really felt like this book was an easy and quick read, but however, I did see the twist coming and I was really hoping for something super shocking to happen at the end. And however, nothing happened. It was just kind of dull. So I'm not really sure Robin Harding is the author for me. I read The Arrangement a few months ago, gave it also 3 stars. So maybe she just isn't for me. I'm not really sure, but yeah, so I gave this one 3 stars. The next book I have is Mistletoe Between Friends by Samantha Chase, and I also gave this book 3 stars, and this is another novella, and this is about Lily and Cam. They are best friends, and they end up fake dating each other because their families keep bugging them to be in relationships. So of course, them fake dating ends up them falling for each other. And I really thought this book was really good too. I loved the banter between Lily and Cam. I really loved how they were friends and then they turned into lovers. And again, this is another one where the first 3/4 of this book was excellent pacing, then that last fourth is just like way too quick. I don't understand why they're like this, but I don't know, like I said before, maybe novellas are not for me, so unfortunately 3 stars. The next book I read was Winter Street by Ellen Hildebrandt. This is a first in a series, and this is about Kelly. He owns the Winter Street Inn in Nantucket, and he loves spending every holiday with his family and his children. And this Christmas he was not what he was expecting because he caught his wife kissing Santa Claus. And because of that whole drama, everyone ends up coming home except his youngest son because he is actually deployed in the Middle East. So yeah, this is a family drama and I honestly really enjoyed it. I loved how it was told in all the different children's perspectives, and I really loved all the different backstories of all the different characters, and overall I really liked this book. I will definitely be reading the next book in the series, and I really enjoyed this book and it's a great Christmassy read. The next book that I'm going to talk about is Heidi's Guide to 4-Letter Words by Tara Civic and Andy Onnit. And this is about Heidi. She is laid off from her teaching position, and while she's searching for a new job, she finds this administrative assistant position and she applies for it. She gets a job, and when she goes to her new employment, little does she know, she finds out that is a recording studio for steamy romance novels. And she is completely taken aback by this because she gets embarrassed very easily. So to help her feel more comfortable about the romance novels, she ends up starting a podcast where she reads portions of the steamy parts of romance novels on air. And also while on this podcast, she lets people know that she has a huge crush on her neighbor. So overall, I really enjoyed this book. I listened to it on audiobook, and let me tell you, that was the best experience. I never laughed so hard in my life in my car. I'm sure people were probably like, what in the world is this girl laughing at? But oh my god, this book was so freaking funny. Oh my god. I think that's what I loved the most about this book. And I loved how Heidi was getting out of her comfort zone with reading romance novels. I thought that was really fun. And her crush on her neighbor, that was adorable. And I really thought her neighbor Brent was so sweet and so kind to her. And they were just a sweet couple. I loved them together. And also, Heidi's mom was hilarious in this book. Oh my gosh. I think she really played a big role in this book, and I loved it. So if you end up picking up this book, I highly recommend listening to it on audiobook. It was amazing. The next book I have is The Christmas Sisters by Sarah Morgan, and I also gave this book 4 stars. This is about Suzanne. Her and her husband and one of her children live in the Highlands in Scotland, and every Christmas she loves having her daughters home for Christmas. Her other 2 daughters live in New York, and Hannah is a workaholic and she never has time for her family, but she is dating this new guy and she thinks she may be pregnant with his baby. And there's also Beth. Her and her husband are disagreeing because she wants to go back to work after being a stay-at-home mom for many years. And then there's also Posey. She is a mountain guide and does search and rescue, and she's attracted to her new neighbor Luke. So there's a lot going on in this book. However, it was so good. I loved Sarah Morgan's writing so much. I definitely see myself picking up more books by this author. I loved how this was told in all different perspectives of all the 3 sisters and the mother. I love that. So I loved getting the backstories and all of these characters and really getting into knowing them. And I also love family dramas, so this was perfect read, and it definitely put me in the Christmas spirit. So I loved this book, and like I said, I'll be picking up definitely more books by this author. I know she wrote A Wedding in December. Unfortunately, I didn't get to it this year, so hopefully next December I will definitely be able to read it, and hopefully if she comes out with another Christmas book this year that I will be able to read that one as well. So I really like this book and I really love this author, so I am so happy I read this book. The next book I have is A Pizza My Heart by Tegan Hunter. I gave this book 4.5 stars, and this is about Wren and her twin brother Winston. They help out at their family-owned pizzeria. And one day while Wren is waitressing, she is waiting on this table and she notices the guy at the table and she really recognizes him. And then she realizes it is her and her brother's best friend Foster. He ended up moving away 4 years ago to get married, and now he's back in town because he is freshly divorced, and he is now going on all these dates to meet a new girl. And before Foster moved away, he told Wren that he was falling in love with her, and she kind of brushed it off and basically just friend zoned him, and he ended up moving away, and now he's back and he's starting to have feelings for her again. So this book, loved it. I loved the chemistry between Wren and Foster so much. I love a good friends to lovers romance. I thought this was done so well, and I love the banter between the 2 characters because of course they knew each other, so they were always like joking around with each other, and I love that. I thought this book was really funny, and I just really enjoyed this book. And I loved how this book was set in a pizzeria. I felt like the atmosphere of this book was just so fun. And if you're looking for a great lighthearted rom-com, you should definitely pick up this book. And I cannot wait to continue reading the next book in a series. And the last book that I want to talk about is Neat by Candy Steiner, and I gave this book 5 stars, my favorite book of the month. And this is about Logan. He is a tour guide for the Scooter Whiskey Distillery, and he has to train a new employee, which is the owner's daughter. and their two families do not like each other at all. And the Beckers and the Scooters have been feuding for many, many years, and Logan is not thrilled that he has to train Mallory. However, the more and more they work together, they both start having feelings for each other. So I loved how this book was a modern day tale of Romeo and Juliet because of the feuding families. I really love that about this book. And I also love Logan. He was so swoony. Oh my gosh. He is a reader, and I loved how he cared about Mallory so much. And I loved how Mallory stood up to her family because she wanted to be with Logan. She did not care what they said or what they would do. So I really liked that about her and her character. And I loved in this book how you got tidbit information about Noah and Ruby Grace, which is the couple that you followed in the first book in the series. And this is a second book in the series. But yeah, so you got a little bit more information about Noah and Ruby Grace. Love that. And I just love the family dynamic in this book. And I feel like Candy Steiner can do no wrong when she writes. I will literally read everything that she writes, and I cannot wait to read more about the other two brothers in the next two books. So I'm super excited about that, and I am so glad that I ended up reading this book. And this was actually the last book that I read for the month and for the year, so I definitely ended 2019 with an amazing book. So I am so glad I read all of these books, and I felt like I had a pretty good December. I read some really good Christmas books, and I've read a couple good romance books. So overall, I'm pretty happy with my reading for the month. And that's it. I guess that is the last wrap up for 2019. I am super excited for all the books that I'll be reading in 2020. And let me know in the comments if you've read any of these books. And if you have, let me know what you thought of them. And until then, I will see you in my next video. Bye!